Well, to the war in Ukraine now, as there is a report that claims the UN says Ukraine shares the blame for an attack in March on a care home for the elderly and disabled. This was in eastern Ukraine. Journalist Sergio Olmos tells us why the UN came to that conclusion.
Well, this is a reporting out tonight from the Associated Press, reporting that a UN report says that 2 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine, in an attack at a nursing home in the Luhansk region, elderly people there were attacked by the Russian armed forces. An ensuing fire suffocated some of them. Some were able to escape to the forest. Ukraine at the time said that about 50 civilians had been killed at the hands of the Russian armed forces. This UN report that we're hearing about tonight says that a few days before that, Ukrainian soldiers had been using that nursing home to hold up in there to stage themselves, using as defensive position, using as a forward operating position, that Ukrainian soldiers had been there, which would make it, according to this report, a legitimate target that, according to the rules of warfare, soldiers cannot use civilians as human shields. If you're going to use a building, you have to evacuate the civilians, get them out of there, to not pose that kind of risk towards them. This report tonight, really asks questions, and we have not heard from the Ukrainian government on this issue, but if this is true, this would be one of the first of its kind of what we heard. So far, we have not heard other kinds of reports like this, but certainly we want to hear on the Ukrainian government on this issue. And we should stress, this is reporting tonight from the AP on a UN report.
So, as you say, things to bear in mind here, including the fact that we do need to hear the reaction from Kyiv. That said, let's talk about the war itself. What is the latest on the fighting in eastern Ukraine?
That's right. As I mentioned earlier, the Luhansk region, where this report, where this incident took place, the Luhansk region at the moment is under Russian occupation. The Russian armed forces have now occupied it for about a week. They have taken the town of Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, and they have now set their sights on the rest of the Donbass, which is the Donetsk region. They have started moving forward in terms of artillery. We heard from President Vladimir Putin of Russia saying that there would be an operational pause. But what we're seeing is the shelling has not stopped. Some ground forces have not, no territory has exchanged hands in the last few days, but the shelling has now moved forward into the cities of Bakhmut, Sloviansk, Seversk, and Kramatorsk. We're seeing that the intention of taking those cities seems to be in the same kind of playbook as the one that allowed Russia to take Luhansk. They are shelling Bakhmut, Seversk, and Sloviansk, shelling residential areas, train stations. It is a kind of total warfare. All parts of the city are fair game. The Russian armed forces say they intend to liberate, quote, all of the Donbass. At the moment, we are seeing shelling in other regions, including Kharkiv, Sumy, and the Kherson region. But the thrust of it continues to be in the Donbass, where the objective of Donetsk at the moment seems to be that Russia does intend to keep pushing forward to take those territories. Civilians are still being killed in those settlements and villages.